They knocked a girl out of her wheelchair and laughed, but what happened next silenced an entire school. This isn't just another bullying story. It's a revolution that began with a single act of cruelty and ended by transforming hundreds of lives. The moment when Lily Reynolds hit the concrete, bleeding and humiliated, could have broken her spirit instead. It ignited a courage that would change everything. Watch as two unlikely heroes rewrite the rules of power, proving that sometimes the quietest voice carries the most weight. This true story will leave you questioning, what would you have done? Who would you have been? Hit that subscribe button now, drop a like, and stay until the very end, because the final minutes contain a lesson we all desperately need to remember. This isn't just content, it's a mirror held up to our own humanity. The laughter always hurt more than the stares. Lily Reynolds sat alone near the flagpole at Ridgewood Middle School in Portland, Oregon, her wheelchair positioned just far enough from the morning crowd to avoid becoming an obstacle. Students streamed past her like water around a stone, their conversations swirling in fragments that never included her voice. Lily was 13, with thoughtful eyes that noticed everything, and a smile she reserved for those rare moments when someone actually saw her. Born with spina bifida, her wheelchair had become both her freedom and her persona metal extension of herself that others couldn't see past. She'd perfected the art of existing without being noticed, of taking up just enough space to breathe but not enough to inconvenience. "Did you see what Mackenzie posted last night?" a girl asked her friend as they walked by. Lily knew the answers followed the same social accounts as everyone else, but they weren't talking to her. Nobody did, unless they needed answers for homework or had been assigned to help the disabled girl for community service credit. The morning bell echoed across the courtyard, sending students hurrying toward the entrance. Lily waited, watching the crowd thin before she began wheeling herself forward. Experience had taught her that navigating busy hallways was easier when she wasn't competing for space. Her wheels made a slight squeaking sound against the pavementa noise she'd grown to hate because it announced her presence before she could choose to be seen. In science class, Miss Rivera smiled warmly as Lily rolled in. "Good morning, Lily. Ready for our lab today?" She was one of the few teachers who saw beyond the wheelchair, who treated Lily as a student first rather than a logistical consideration. Lily nodded, positioning herself at her modified desk space. 3 rows back sat Zoe Washington, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun, eyes alert and observant. Unlike most students, Zoe noticed things like how Lily always had the right answer but rarely raised her hand, or how she navigated the cafeteria by taking the longest route to avoid the popular tables. Zoe wasn't loud or particularly popular herself, but she carried a quiet confidence that didn't need validation from others. The classroom door swung open as Tyler Phillips strutted in, late as usual. At 14, Tyler was already the star of the 8th grade football team, his father's name prominently displayed on the school's donor wall. He moved through the school like he owned it, with an entourage that laughed on cue and stepped aside when he passed. "Mr. Phillips," Miss Rivera said, "glad you could join us. Take your seat." Tyler smirked, his eyes catching on Lily's wheelchair as he passed. He deliberately bumped the back of it, making it roll forward slightly. "Oops," he whispered, just loud enough for Lily to hear, but too quiet for Miss Rivera to notice. "Brake check." Lily's fingers tightened around her pencil, her face remaining carefully neutral as she steadied herself. This was just another Tuesday at Ridgewood Middle School. Another day of being both invisible and a target. What Lily didn't know was that by tomorrow, everything would change because of a girl who believed silence wasn't the same as peace, in a school that was about to learn what real strength looked like. No one expected the cruelty to escalate so quickly. The morning sun had barely warmed the concrete when Lily wheeled herself toward the school's west entrance, where the accessible ramp curved gently to the doors. Most students used the main steps, but Lily's route had become as familiar to her as the lines on her palms. She was early deliberately so to avoid the crush of bodies that made navigation nearly impossible. The air felt different that morning, charged with an unsettled energy that Lily couldn't quite place. She adjusted her backpack on her lap, the weight of textbooks pressing against her thin legs. That's when she heard them footsteps. Too deliberate to be casual, approaching from behind. "Well, if it isn't Wheels," Tyler's voice cut through the morning quiet. "Taking the special entrance again?" He wasn't alone. Flanking him were Derek and Jason, his usual shadows, their matching Letterman jackets forming a wall of red and white before Lily. Lily's throat tightened. "I'm just trying to get to class." Her voice came out steadier than she felt, a skill perfected over years of similar confrontations. Tyler stepped forward, towering over Lily's seated form. "You know what I've always wondered?" He circled around, his sneakers squeaking against the pavement. "How fast can this thing actually go?" Without warning, his hand shot out, grabbing the back of Lily's wheelchair. "Don't," Lily started, but the word died in her throat as Tyler jostled the chair, causing her books to slide from her lap onto the ground. A small crowd had begun to gather, their faces a blur of curiosity and discomfort. "Maybe it needs a test drive," Tyler laughed, and then with one powerful movement, he tilted the wheelchair backward. Lily's arms flailed, searching for balance as gravity betrayed her. For one suspended moment, Lily was airborne, and then came the impact, her shoulder hitting the concrete first, followed by the rest of her body as the wheelchair tipped completely. The world went silent. Lily lay there, her cheek pressed against the cold ground, the wheelchair frame partially on top of her. She could feel a warm trickle of blood from where her elbow had scraped the pavement. The pain was sharp, but it was nothing compared to the humiliation burning through her chest. Someone laughed at a short, strangled sound quickly hushed. Then another. The sound rippled through the growing crowd, not unanimous but enough to form a wave of quiet mockery. Lily kept her eyes fixed on a small crack in the concrete, refusing to look up, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing the tears that threatened to spill. "What is wrong with you?" A clear voice sliced through the murmurs. Zoe Washington pushed through the onlookers, her face flushed with anger. She knelt beside Lily, her movements careful but determined. "Are you okay?" Lily couldn't answer, the lump in her throat too large to speak around. Zoe turned her attention to Tyler, who stood with his arms crossed, his initial shock at what he'd done already hardening into defensive amusement. "You think this makes you big?" Zoe's voice was quiet but carried across the now silent courtyard. "Picking on someone who can't walk?" Tyler's smirk faltered. "It was just a joke. She's fine." "A joke?" Zoe stood, her 5'4" frame somehow expanding with righteous fury. "Then why is no one laughing now?" The school bell rang, cutting through the tension like a knife. A teacher finally emerged from the doors, too late to witness what had happened, but just in time to help Lily back into her chair. By then, Tyler and his friends had melted into the crowd, leaving Lily with a torn shirt, a bleeding elbow, and a dignity that felt as broken as the ground beneath her. What none of them realized was that this moment, this cruel, ordinary moment that just lit a fuse that would change everything at Ridgewood Middle School. But the tragedy wasn't the end of the story, it was just the beginning. That afternoon, while Lily sat in the nurse's office with a bandaged elbow and ice on her shoulder, Zoe paced outside Principal Harmon's door. Her hands were clenched so tightly that her fingernails left crescent moons in her palms. She had tried reporting what happened, but Tyler's friends had already spun their version an accident, they claimed. No one else had stepped forward as a witness. Without proof, it was her word against theirs. "This isn't right," she whispered to herself, turning when she heard the familiar squeak of wheels on linoleum. Lily approached, her face composed, but her eyes still holding the shadow of the morning's humiliation. "You didn't have to wait for me," she said quietly. Zoe studied her, this girl she'd shared classes with for 2 years but barely knew. "Yes, I did," she replied, voice firm. "What happened today can't just disappear like it never happened." A poster on the wall caught Zoe's attention, bright colors, announcing the annual Unity Challenge, a school-wide event designed to promote teamwork and inclusion. Students would compete in teams through various challenges, culminating in an obstacle relay. The whole school would be watching, including parents and faculty. Something sparked in Zoe's eyes. "Have you heard about the Unity Challenge?" Lily nodded slowly. "It's next week. I never participate. What if this time you did?" Zoe leaned forward, an idea taking shape. "What if we could show Tyler and everyone else exactly what they refused to see?" For the first time that day, a flicker of interest crossed Lily's face. "What do you mean?" Over the next hour, in the quiet corner of the library where Lily usually ate lunch alone, the two girls formed a plan. Not for revenge, Lily didn't want that, but for something more powerful: visibility. Zoe reached out to Miss Rivera, the one teacher they both trusted, sharing their idea in hushed, determined tones. It's not about humiliating Tyler, Zoe explained to Miss Rivera. It's about changing how people see Lily, how they see all of us. Miss Rivera listened, her expression thoughtful. The last section of the relay is usually a three-legged race, she said. But we could modify it. One person in a wheelchair, one person guiding. And I want Tyler as my partner, Lily said, her voice so quiet they almost missed it. Both Zoe and Miss Rivera turned to her in surprise. Are you sure? Zoe asked, concerned. Lily's chin lifted slightly. If he's going to learn, it has to be from me. And he has to learn what it's actually like, not just for a minute in a relay, but every single day. That evening, as Zoe walked home, she called Lily for the first time. They talked for hours not just about the plan, but about everything else. About how Lily had felt invisible for so long, she'd almost forgotten what it was like to be seen. About how Zoe had always watched from the sidelines, afraid to step forward until now. Why did you help me? Lily finally asked. No one else did. There was a pause on the line. Because someday, I might be the one who falls. Zoe answered simply. And I'd want someone to help me up too. If this story has touched your heart, please hit the like button. Every single one of your likes helps more people discover stories that matter. The journey of Lily and Zoe is just beginning, and I promise you won't want to miss what happens next. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you'll know immediately when I post part 4, the moment when everything changes. Drop a comment if you've ever stood up for someone when others wouldn't. Your story matters too, and we're all listening. When the morning of the Unity Challenge arrived, dark clouds hung low over Portland, threatening rain but holding back as if even the weather was waiting to see what would unfold. The entire school buzzed with excitement, the gymnasium transformed with colorful banners and makeshift obstacle courses. Students gathered in their assigned teams, matching t-shirts creating blocks of color across the bleachers. Tyler Phillips paced near the water fountain, his red team shirt untucked, his forehead creased in confusion. This has to be a mistake, he muttered to Derek as he scanned the team roster again. I'm supposed to be with Coach Wilson's group. Miss Rivera approached, clipboard in hand, her expression pleasantly neutral. No mistake, Tyler. You've been specifically requested for Team 7. She pointed toward the far corner where Zoe stood with 3 other students and Lily in her wheelchair. Tyler's face darkened. No way. I'm not working with... With whom, Mr. Phillips? Principal Harmon's voice cut in as he materialized beside Miss Rivera. I was under the impression that the Unity Challenge was about working with all of our students. His tone left no room for argument. Reluctantly, Tyler trudged across the gym floor, each step heavy with resentment. The looks from his football teammates followed him, a mixture of confusion and mockery that made his neck burn. Glad you could join us, Zoe said, her voice cool as Tyler approached. We were just discussing strategy. Tyler glanced at Lily, whose face remained unreadable. Whatever. Let's just get this over with. The first 2 events, a puzzle challenge and a ball passing relay, went by in tense silence. Team 7 performed adequately, with Tyler participating minimally, his movements mechanical and disengaged. But it was the final event, the obstacle relay, that everyone had been waiting for. Each team's final leg will include 1 team member in a wheelchair and 1 guiding. Coach Wilson announced over the microphone. The course includes ramps, narrow passageways, and several turns. Communication is key. Tyler's head snapped up. What? No one said anything about... I'll be in the chair, Lily said quietly. You'll be guiding me. No way, Tyler hissed, looking around desperately for an escape. I didn't sign up for this. Neither did I, Lily replied, her voice suddenly stronger. But here we are. The gymnasium fell into expectant silence as teams prepared for the final relay. Parents lined the walls, teachers positioned themselves as spotters, and student volunteers readied their cameras for the yearbook. Everyone was watching. When their turn came, Tyler stood frozen behind Lily's wheelchair, his hands hovering uncertainly over the handles. The trick, Lily said without turning around, is to push firmly but not too hard. Listen to me when I tell you to slow down or turn. If you tip me over on purpose, everyone will see exactly who you are. The whistle blew. Instinct took over, and Tyler pushed forward, his athletic prowess immediately taking them to the front of the pack. The first obstacle, a slalom between cones, came fast. Left, Lily called sharply. Now right, slower on the turn. Tyler found himself following her instructions, his competitive nature temporarily overshadowing his resistance. They cleared the next obstacle, a narrow bridge with guide rails in perfect sync. We're making it too narrow, Lily explained as they raced. Every day, I have to navigate spaces not built for me. As they approached the ramp section, disaster nearly struck. Tyler, pushing too hard, almost sent them careening off the edge. Stop! Lily's command was urgent. You have to angle the chair. Like this. She demonstrated with her hands, showing him how to position the wheels. Something shifted in Tyler's expression, a flash of genuine concentration, replacing the resentment. For the first time, he wasn't just pushing a wheelchair, he was working with the person in it. The final stretch approached. They were neck and neck with Team 3. The crowd was cheering now, the energy electric. With one final burst of coordinated effort, Tyler and Lily crossed the finish line first. Lily's hand shooting up with the victory baton. The gymnasium erupted. But amidst the chaos of celebration, what everyone remembered later wasn't the victory itself, but the moment just after when Tyler, breathing hard and flushed with adrenaline, looked down at Lily and said, almost too quiet for anyone to hear, "That was incredible." And Lily, looking back up at him, offered the smallest of smiles, not of forgiveness, not yet, but of acknowledgement. A first step on a much longer road. The victory was just a moment. What came after would last forever. 3 days after the Unity Challenge, Principal Harmon's voice crackled through the intercom, announcing a special assembly. Students filed into the gymnasium, the same space where just days before they had witnessed something none of them could quite explain. Tyler Phillips and Lily Reynolds, working together and winning. Whispers rippled through the bleachers as Zoe approached Principal Harmon at the microphone. No one knew what was happening. Assemblies were always announced at least a week in advance. This one felt different, urgent in a way that made the air feel charged. Lily sat in her wheelchair at the edge of the basketball court, her hands trembling slightly in her lap. She had barely slept the night before, running through the words she'd practiced in front of her bedroom mirror until her throat was raw. This would be the first time many of her classmates would hear her voice addressing more than just a classroom response. "Good morning, everyone," Principal Harmon began, his voice solemn. "Today we're going to do something a little different. 2 of your fellow students have asked to speak to you all about something important, something that happened right here in our school." Zoe took the microphone, her usual confidence momentarily shaken as she faced hundreds of eyes. "Most of you saw what happened last week," she began, her voice steadying with each word. "You saw Lily get pushed over in her wheelchair. Some of you laughed. Some looked away, and almost all of you stayed silent. The room grew uncomfortably still. Teachers exchanged glances. Students shifted in their seats. "We're not here to point fingers or get anyone in trouble," Zoe continued. "We're here because silence hurts more than words ever could." She handed the microphone to Lily, who wheeled herself forward. The spotlight seemed to follow her, casting a glow on her small frame. For a moment, she just breathed, looking out at faces that had for years looked past her. "My name is Lily Reynolds," she began, her voice soft but clear, carrying across the hushed gymnasium. "I've been at this school for 3 years. I know most of your names, even if you don't know mine." She paused, swallowing hard. "Every morning, I wake up 20 minutes earlier than I need to, so I can get to school before the hallways fill up. I memorize alternative routes to every classroom in case someone blocks my way accidentally or on purpose. I've learned to hold my bladder all day because the accessible bathroom is at the opposite end of the building from most of my classes, and I know teachers get annoyed when I ask to leave too often." Somewhere in the middle rows, a girl wiped her eyes. Near the back, a teacher looked down at her hands. "When I fell last week, the worst part wasn't the pain or even the embarrassment," Lily continued, her voice cracking slightly. "It was looking up and seeing all of you people I sit next to in class, people I've known since elementary school, and realizing that to most of you, I'm not really here. I'm a chair with a person attached, not a person with a chair attached." The microphone trembled in her hand. "But during the Unity Challenge, something changed. For those few minutes on the relay course, Tyler couldn't see me as just a wheelchair. He had to see me as someone with a voice worth listening to, with knowledge worth learning from. She looked directly at Tyler, who sat rigid in the front row, his teammates conspicuously distant from him. That's all any of us wants to be seen for who we are, not what we lack or what makes us different. Lily wheeled back slightly, but she wasn't finished. I don't want your pity. I don't even want your help, unless I ask for it. What I want, what we all deserve, is to be acknowledged, to be included in your conversations, your lunch tables, your group projects, to be seen as a whole person with thoughts and feelings and abilities, not just limitations. The silence that followed her words wasn't awkward or uncomfortable. It was heavy with recognition, the kind that settles in your chest and changes something fundamental about how you see the world. Principal Harmon stepped forward to take the microphone, but before he could speak, something unprecedented happened. Tyler Phillips stood up. No one expected Tyler Phillips to walk toward the microphone. The gymnasium fell into a silence so complete that the sound of his sneakers against the polished floor echoed like thunder. Principal Harmon hesitated, then wordlessly offered Tyler the microphone. For a moment, Tyler just stood there, his usual confidence stripped away, revealing the uncertain 14-year-old boy beneath the carefully constructed image. I don't have a speech prepared, he began, his voice uncharacteristically small. I'm not even sure why I'm standing here except that I can't sit there anymore and pretend I didn't do what I did. He looked directly at Lily, something he'd rarely done before the relay race. What I did to you was cruel. It wasn't a joke or an accident. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I did it because I thought it would make me look cool. He swallowed hard. It didn't. It made me look exactly like what I was, being a bully. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Teachers exchanged glances. Students shifted uncomfortably. This level of public accountability was unprecedented at Ridgewood. During the relay, Tyler continued, you told me something I can't stop thinking about. You said every day I have to navigate spaces not built for me. I thought it was just about the course, but it wasn't, was it? It's about everything. This school, the hallways, the way people treat you. Lily nodded, a single small movement that carried the weight of years. I can't undo what I did, Tyler said, his voice steadying. But I can promise it won't happen again, not from me, and not from anyone else if I can help it. He turned to face the bleachers, scanning the faces of his peers. And if any of you think it's funny or cool to make someone else feel small, then maybe you should try spending one day, just one day, navigating a world that wasn't built for you. When Tyler handed the microphone back to Principal Harmon, something in the atmosphere had shifted. It wasn't sudden redemption that would take time and consistent action, but it was the first crack in a wall that had seemed impenetrable. The following week, changes began appearing throughout Ridgewood Middle School. Small at first, a group of 8th grade girls inviting Lily to their lunch table, teachers becoming more conscious about classroom arrangements, hallway monitors actually monitoring the hallways. But then came bigger transformations. Mr. Dawson, the shop teacher, enlisted his advanced class to build improved ramps at several school entrances. The student council, with Zoe now serving as a special appointee for accessibility issues, pushed through a proposal to create designated quiet zones in the cafeteria and library for students who needed less sensory stimulation. Most surprising was Tyler himself. The Monday after the assembly, he approached Lily at her locker, hands shoved deep in his pockets, eyes fixed on the floor. I meant what I said, he told her, the hallway traffic flowing around them. I'm sorry, really sorry. Lily studied him, her expression measured. I believe you're sorry, she said finally, but being sorry isn't enough. Tyler nodded. I know, that's why I talked to Coach Wilson. I'm starting a peer support program for kids with disabilities who want to get involved in sports. He's helping me figure out how to adapt the training. For the first time since they'd known each other, Lily smiled directly at Tyler, not a full forgiveness, but an acknowledgement of effort. That's a start, she said. By month's end, Principal Harmon announced the formation of a student-led inclusivity committee with Lily as co-chair and Zoe as secretary. Their first initiative? A school-wide audit of accessibility barriers, both physical and social. Students mapped out trouble spots in the building, documented instances of exclusion, and proposed solutions. What had begun as a single act of cruelty had catalyzed a movement that was spreading through Ridgewood like wildfire, changing not just policies but hearts and minds. And in the center of it all stood Lily Reynolds, no longer invisible, no longer just the girl in the wheelchair, but a leader whose voice now carried through the very hallways where she had once been silenced. 1 year later, the seeds planted at Ridgewood Middle School had grown into a forest of change. The last day of 8th grade arrived with the sweet scent of summer hanging in the air, sunlight streaming through classroom windows as students cleared out lockers and signed yearbooks. For Lily Reynolds, this day marked not just the end of middle school, but the conclusion of a journey that had transformed both her life and an entire school community. The hallway outside the art room had been cordoned off all week, hiding a special project behind temporary barriers. Now, as students gathered for the unveiling, Principal Harmon's voice carried over the excited chatter. Before we begin our end-of-year celebrations, we have something important to share with you all. He nodded to Miss Alvarez, the art teacher, who pulled away the cloth covering the wall. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the mural was revealed, a stunning 10-foot painting depicting two silhouettes against a vibrant background. One figure stood tall, hand extended. The other sat in a wheelchair, reaching back. Their fingers connected at the center of the composition, forming a bridge between their worlds. Above them, in bold letters that seemed to shimmer with purpose, "Your voice matters. Speak up. Stand together." At the bottom corner, a small plaque read, "The Ridgewood Revolution started by two girls who refused to be silenced." Lily's eyes filled with tears as she stared at the mural. Beside her, Zoe squeezed her shoulder gently. "This mural," Principal Harmon continued, "will remind future students of the change that began this year. But more importantly, it will challenge them to continue what you all started." The crowd applauded, but this wasn't the only surprise of the day. During the final assembly, Superintendent Wallace took the stage, a framed certificate in hand. "Ridgewood Middle School has been selected as this year's recipient of the State Educational Inclusion Award," she announced. "Your student-led initiatives have become a model for schools across the district and beyond." As Lily and Zoe approached the stage to accept the award on behalf of the Inclusivity Committee, a movement caught Lily's eye. In the back of the auditorium, unfamiliar faces had appeared: reporters from the local newspaper, a camera crew from the city's PBS affiliate, and representatives from several disability advocacy organizations. The Ridgewood Revolution, as it had come to be known, had spread beyond their walls. 3 other middle schools in the district had already implemented similar student committees. The high school Lily would attend in the fall had reached out, asking her to help establish an accessibility program for incoming freshmen. After the ceremony, Tyler approached Lily. His demeanor changed from the cocky boy who had once seen her as nothing but a target. "I'm going to Wilson High next year," he said, "but I wanted you to know I'm taking what we started here with me. Coach Turner there already agreed to let me start an adaptive sports program." Lily nodded, offering a genuine smile. "Good. Make it count." As the final bell of the year rang, students poured out onto the sunlit campus, summer freedom calling them forward. Lily and Zoe lingered in the now empty hallway, staring at the mural that would outlast their time at Ridgewood. "You know what amazes me most?" Lily said quietly. "A year ago, I was trying so hard to be invisible. And now you're literally painted on the wall," Zoe finished with a laugh. Lily shook her head, suddenly serious. "It's not about me, though, or even us. It's about what happens next year and the year after that. It's about the kids who aren't even here yet." As if to punctuate her point, a group of 5th graders on their orientation tour rounded the corner, wide-eyed and nervous about starting middle school in the fall. Their guide stopped at the mural, explaining its significance in reverent tones. "This is where our school changed," the student guide told them. "This is where we learned that sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one you least expect." One small boy in the back raised his hand, pointing to Lily. "Is that her? Is that the girl from the story?" In that moment, watching the faces of children who would walk the halls long after she had gone, Lily understood the true power of what they had built. The revolution hadn't been a single speech or program or policy change. It had been the moment they refused to accept that silence was the price of belonging. Remember, Lily had once written in the committee's mission statement, "A school isn't just classrooms and hallways. It's the space we create for each other to be fully human." And at Ridgewood Middle School, that space now belonged to everyone. In the hallways of our own lives, we all face a choice to remain silent when someone falls, or to become the hand that helps them rise. Lily and Zoe's story isn't just about a girl in a wheelchair or the bullies who knocked her down. It's about the revolution that happens when we refuse to accept cruelty as normal. As someone who's worked closely with teens navigating these brutal middle school years, I've seen firsthand how a single act of courage can ripple outward, transforming not just a moment but an entire community. The true power in this story isn't in the grand gestures or public speech as it's in the quiet decision to see someone fully, to recognize their humanity when others look away. That decision changes everything. It changed Tyler, it changed Ridgewood, and perhaps it's changed something in you as you followed this journey. We all occupy different positions in our own stories. Sometimes we're Lily, vulnerable and exposed. Sometimes we're Zoe, faced with the choice to speak up or walk away. And sometimes, if we're honest, we're Tyler, capable of both thoughtless cruelty and profound growth. The question isn't which character you identify with, but which character you choose to become tomorrow. If this story touched something in you, don't let that feeling fade. Hit the like button to help others find this message. Leave a comment sharing a time when you stood up or wish you had. Most importantly, subscribe to join our community of storytellers and truth seekers who believe that the stories we share can heal the world we inhabit. Next week's story, about a forgotten hero who saved 30 lives, will move you even more deeply. Until then, remember, in a world where you can be anything, be the person who makes space for everyone to belong.